and he's going to talk a little bit about artificial insemination, and also afterwards he's going to also talk about castration and tail docking. And he brought his animals today, and he's actually going to give a demonstration this period with actual animals so you can see. So after he's done with his presentation, we'll be going outside and we will actually see this in real life.
Can I pat him?
And another thing that I want to make sure that everybody knows is that all three of these practices that we'll be talking about today are extremely common in the agricultural industry, and they're done for various reasons. And I hope you have fun, and I hope that you learn a lot. And I'll turn it over to Troy.
Okay, we're going to be talking about artificial insemination, castration, and docking in the livestock industry. Artificial insemination is the introduction of semen through the vulva and into the uterus without sexual contact. This is an advance in technology which is used today in almost every herd of cattle and swine. Artificial insemination is a way to select superior genetics and traits and breed them into your own herd. Artificial insemination, the selection is only for the sire, or the male animal. Female selection consists of embryo work called ET programs. Artificial insemination in cattle and sheep consists of purchasing straws or semen and storing them in nitrogen tanks until the farmer has an animal in standing heat. Swine is different because the shelf life of the semen is only 5 to 7 days. So when you have a pig in standing heat, you order your semen accordingly and breed them right away. As I said, it only stores at room temperature for 5 to 7 days. There are different methods for artificial insemination. In cattle and horses, a way to get the semen from the straw to the uterus is by guide of the human hand through the vulva of the cow or the horse, and to inject it into the uterus. In swine, you use a false penis or a spirette, and this is used to screw into the cervix and be locked into the uterus. Sheep is the only artificial insemination that has to be done with surgery. Artificial insemination is very expensive. There are only several vets in the whole world that can complete this surgery. As you can see, the lady there is making an incision in the abdominal area of the ewe there. And what she will do is she will then cut into the uterus and inject the semen straight into the uterus, and then sew the animal back up. It's important when your vet comes to do this surgery that your animal is in the standing heat. And this process has to be done this way because the ewes have 3 folds in their vaginal tract, meaning they have, when you go in the vulva, there is a fold here, and a fold here. If you take a straw or a spirette, you'd have to maneuver under and over and under, which is somewhat impossible. So this is the technique that they have at the moment, but in future they will most likely find another way to do this in a more cost-effective way. Next is castration. Castration is the removal of the testicles or functions of the testicles. This is performed to make animals less aggressive, to decrease hormones in meat, and to make an animal built for the market value rather than the breeding value. This means when, say you have a bull, a stallion, or a boar, they all get their muscular, masculine shape, and this is undesirable in the market industry. So when we castrate them, they grow more with meaty, fatty type of muscle that is more edible for us. The recommended time to castrate animals, calves should be done 1 to 3 months of age, lambs 7 to 14 days, and piglets 1 to 3 weeks. There are different methods for castrating. The first is using a knife or a scalpel. This can be used in cattle and sheep and swine. In cattle and sheep, you cut the bottom 1/3 of the scrotum off, and you pop the testicles through the hole, and you yank them out. And then in the swine, this is the only method that can be used for swine castration. The scrotum of the swine is attached to the rump, as you can see there, and you slit 2 lines parallel to their middle crease in their ham, and at that point you pop the testicles through the incisions you made, and you rip them, and this tears the spermatic cord in half. The next method, which we will be doing, is with an elastrator. It is a strong rubber ring which is slipped over the scrotum and is released to clamp around the cord above the scrotum. The blood supply is then cut off, and it takes about a week for the sac and testicles to die and fall to the ground. This method does cause pain and discomfort and carries a risk of infection. The next methods are very similar with an emasculator or an emasculotome. The same process with the similar instruments that look like pliers or nippers. The emasculator crushes and cuts off the vessels attaching the testicle to the body. This reduces internal bleeding and leaves the scrotum and testicles attached. However, it kills and shrinks their functions. So with this method, the testicles will still be attached in the scrotum. However, they will shrivel up and go down to a very small amount. And the emasculotome is the same thing. However, there is no cutting of the vessels. You're just crushing them. These methods, however, are not reliable because you do not know if you fully destroyed the functions of the testicles that are still attached to the body. Next is docking. Docking prevents fecal matter from accumulating on the hindquarters of the lamb. It reduces fly strike or wool maggots and puts an ease on shearing and breeding. Sheep cannot lift their tails. They can only move them side to side. So it is veterinary recommended to dock the tails. It is also recommended to dock a tail leaving it 1.5 inches long. However, in the showing industry where I take my sheep and show them across the country, we dock the tail as close as possible. This makes them appear more desirable. When you leave that 1.5 inches on, your top line slopes down in the rump, and when you dock it the whole way, it should leave the animal level out the top. Their docking methods, we can band or cut the tails similar to castrating. The easiest, efficient, less problematic choice is banding the tails. The process is exactly the same. However, we need to watch the dead limb to see if there are any maggots infesting it, and we need to watch it very carefully, and if it does get to the point where after a week it's not falling off but it is completely dead, we can cut it off at that point, and we can spray it and make sure that it's clean attaching to the body. Additional notes on castrating. Castrating or docking livestock animals. After you do that, you should inject them with CNT, which is a tetanus shot, to reduce the infection of the limb you're taking off. And penicillin should also be given for pain. Penicillin shouldn't be given right away, however, after a few hours when the animal is actually in much pain. The animals should be watched very carefully for several weeks to make sure that all of their functions are okay and to see if they're healthy or have any infections. and that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Troy, whenever you give your shots for penicillin and a tetanus shot, what type of shots do you give them? Is it intramuscular?
Yes,
or-
it's intramuscular.
Okay, so it doesn't matter as long as it gets in muscle tissue?
Yeah.
That's all
We
that matters.
either give it in the neck muscle or in the rump muscle.
Okay, very good. You have a question, Justin?
How long have you been having sheep?
Since 2003. We had a few before that, but I only started showing it. Any other questions?
How often do the sheep that you have, when you dock their tails, do they not fall off and you have to cut them out?
I don't know, every once in a while. Well, it gets to the point where with the hot weather and the flies are out and the flies are attracted to that dead flesh, so they're going to lay their maggot eggs in there. So when we start seeing maggots appear, then we cut it off and we spray it. And we also have to spray for maggots because we don't want them getting into the sheep's body. I also found another fact last night that the sheep, the rams, that 45% of rams in the world are castrated. So it is risky with the infection, however, it's the desirable meat that you're getting rid of that muscular build and you're adding the fat and the things that make them more edible and more product that you can use. If there's any more questions, I guess we can go outside now and castrate and dock and tag and inject CDMT in the lambs.
All right.
With me now I have a 16-day-old ram lamb, and after the castrating process we'll make him a wether, which is a castrated male sheep. When castrating, I'm going to flip the lamb on his rump and have his testicles facing up towards me. Inside I can feel the two testicles and make sure they're both there. At that point, I take my Elastrator with my band and I place it over the scrotum, shoving it the whole way through. And then I'm going to make sure that both of the testicles are popped into the scrotum. Okay, I lost them both. Okay, I have both testicles in the scrotum and I release the band. Okay, and he doesn't like that because it's cutting off his blood. Now I'm going to pull the band off of the metal pokes of the Elastrator. And leave them there with the two testicles inside. You can see the band is there. Now what that's going to do is cut off the circulation, and after a week, well, in a few days, the blood will totally be gone and the testicle will die and the lamb will no longer have that part. At this time, we'll proceed in docking the tail off of our lamb. I usually hold them like this, with the head downward and my tail here. You hold on. Okay. And we have our tail. I'm going to open the Elastrator the same way and shove the tail through the whole way. I'm going to try and dock the tail as close to the hole, the butthole, the anus. And I'll also pull the band off of the pokes. and that tail will also eventually die off. With sheep, I'm a member of a program that the State Veterinary Association checks me every year, and it's by law that I must identify my animals before taking them anywhere or anything like that. So this right here is a scrapie tag. Scrapie is a really bad disease in sheep, and if a sheep gets this, they're going to need to trace its scrapie tag to see where it came from. So every sheep must have a scrapie tag in it, and mine are really important because I'm in a program where I'm volunteering to be in it while everyone else is mandatory. So after 5 years I'm certified, and when we tag an animal, we keep the poke towards us in the front, and there are 2 veins, which I'll show you later, in the ear, and we want to poke that in between both veins, and the tag is in and we pull it off, and then our animal is tagged. And I also have farm tags. We are TAZ, Troy and Zach Farm, and this lamb's number is 8011, which is for the year 2008, and then it's the 11th lamb born at our farm. So I'll also put that, however I want the number to be in the front, so I'll have to judge where my poke goes in, my point. The animal is identified like the rest of the animals in the farm. So this time, now that we have given the animal stress and used certain equipment, now we need to inject the lamb with CD&T. Later on we'll give him penicillin for his pain. And I'll give him 2 milliliters of CD&T, which the bottle tells me to do. And just puncture there, and then it's done. Anyone have any questions?
When you tag the animals, does the tag hurt the animal whenever you put it in their ears?
I'm sure it does hurt them a little bit, but just like piercing your own ear.
Okay.
You know, ask a girl if it has hurt them.
Alright. With young sheep, whenever you tag their ears, the tag is placed in between blood vessels so that in the ear there's a lack of nerve endings, so it reduces the amount of pain that the animal experiences. That's why you want to make sure that whenever the animal's young, you tag their ears.
And it also reduces exterior bleeding. If we would stick it right inside that vein, the hole that we made would bleed and make a big clot of blood around there. So if we do it in between both blood vessels, it's a clean cut and there's no bleeding. Anyone have any questions?
Any questions?
Want to pet the lamb? Hold the lamb? See
What's that bloody thing right there?
Where? This thing? This is umbilical cord.
So he's
We covered it in iodine, and then naturally it'll fall off after a
still a
while.
little bloody.
I think it was being pulled on a little bit. Yep. Alright. That's it.
Created for his artificial insemination, and you can fill in any gaps that you might have missed on the video.
Yeah, can we turn the volume off? Or not even just talk about it?
Okay, we'll do that. Yeah. Can everybody see all right?
little warm in here.
It is.
You'll have to wait to do that after class.
Alright.
Everyone's going on this weekend.
There it is.
Oh, that's right. No, I guess there's supposed to be a big one. Hold on.
It's really like cut off. Okay, the plastic tool in my hands is the spirette. It has a corkscrew at the end, and this is our Duroc pig that I'm putting it in right now. We're screwing it to the left so that we can lock into the cervix and put the semen into the uterus. This pig is in standing heat because her vulva is swollen. When you press on her back, she'll stand there in an erect position, and at this time the semen is in the red canister. It's been thinned with red liquid, so the whole thing is not semen. When the pig is in heat, she'll contract all of the semen into her uterus. She'll like suck it like she's drinking. So I'm applying a little pressure to push it into the uterus, but most of that she's sucking. Yeah, she was taking it in pretty good. She's almost has it all in by now. And if you just saw, she secreted liquid out of her vulva. That's some of the extra liquids that are not semen that she's pushing out of her uterus that it doesn't want to take. When the semen is almost all the way in the uterus, all of it, we'll let her suck the last few drops in. Semen is really expensive. We order ours from Indiana and it comes next day air. There's a whole catalog of traits and bores and pictures, and you get to pick what you want, and along with how well they do in the show ring or breeding other females, it depends on the price, and they average in our book anywhere from I think $175 a dose to $35 a dose. The semen companies collect on Mondays and Fridays, or Mondays and Thursdays in the morning, and then by the afternoon they can have it thinned and shipped right out to you. My brother's a bad photographer and turned it on the side. And now we're turning right, and we're bringing the spirette out of the vulva there, and then she's bred. We'll breed her again after that in 12 hours. You try to breed them twice. They're in standing heat for about anywhere from 1 day or to 3 days. Yes, Greg?
Why don't you ever do it old-fashioned? Would you be saving money for like not finding a sperm company?
True. The problem is, females like we have, we keep on buying them when they're younger, when they're, say, this tall and about 250 pounds. The sows can get up to about 500 pounds, but our boars that we have used get anywhere up to, we sold one for 1,200 pounds, which is like
They get that tall?
Yes. And we can like ride them. And they're really big, and what happens is if you keep that boar and he breeds that 500-pound pig, that's a whole lot of weight that she's trying to support when she's breeding.
But then you get like a super pig?
I don't know. But the problem is, he has to, we had our process there with the semen locked in, the spirette locked into the cervix and in the uterus where we were draining it out. and it was in there. And that was a total of probably a 5-minute process. With that time, the boar can't make that semen that fast, so he sits up there and basically falls asleep while his penis is screwing in and out, and it's too much weight for too long of a time. So
Wait, then how did the pigs do it in the past?
the same way,
So, what are you so worried about?
because we want longevity. We want our sows to stay for 10 years. We want them to last. If they keep on getting bred by 1,200-pound boars, they're going to get weaker and they'll only last for, say, 4 or 5 years. Huh? And our females are also coming out of the show ring too, so they do have stress. They have a lot of symptoms, and they're also a finer made pig
So
that
you don't breed for meat?
we do breed for meat, but we breed for showing and then selling them for meat. And then it's just easier if the semen company keeps the 1,500-pound boars and collects them twice a year.
When you take the cost of corn and you take the cost of duration of 365 days of raising that pig, and you're constantly buying feed for an animal that you're breeding twice a year, the price of a $50 dose of semen, which you get 2 doses, is $100, compared to a price of a ton of feed. I can call Indiana and get it next day air for $100 compared to buying a ton of feed. You know, when I'm feeding 10 to 15 pounds of grain a day. When you take feed prices and vet prices and all that kind of stuff to keep that boar going, when we're a small operation, even if you're a big operation, you can call a boar collection agency a lot faster and allow them to do all that feeding and supply sows all over the nation or all over the world, compared to with raising that animal with, you get what I'm saying, with the price of feeds, I can put in $100 of feed very fast compared to I only need semen twice a year for that sow. So for $200, I don't need to raise a boar. Okay? I can use the artificial fragrances to bring that sow around where I need her. I can inject her with a product called PG600, which will bring her in a heat cycle when we need her to be in heat. And I can breed her with that $200 semen a lot easier than I can raise a boar. Okay?
With our small operation, we have only ever had a maximum of 3 sows. Each sow ranges 16 piglets average. It's, as he said, a lot easier to order the semen than it is to keep born. We can also bring the sows into heat with the PG600, as well as if they aren't coming in, they sell boar scent, which is actually boar urine that you can spray in the nostrils of the female, and that stimulates her to come into her gestation. The gestation of pigs is it's 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, which is 115 days. We can breed pigs 5 times in 2 years or twice a year. We only breed twice a year so that we can have piglets to show at the Lebanon Area Fair and at the Pennsylvania Farm Show, which works out because they're 6 months away from each other. So we can have a sow farrow a litter of piglets, let the piglets on the milk for 3 weeks, wean them, get her cycling again, breed her again, and have her farrow or pig later for the next show. So, any other questions?
Do you just do the artificial insemination once when they're in heat, or do you do it numerous times?
We do it twice.
Twice.
When
And
you
always
order,
use the
you
same-
have to order 2 doses.
Okay. Of the
You
same-
can't of the same board. We have several times, if you're breeding for a crossbred litter, we have done several boars on one female, and then you get a wide variety of piglets. But with that mating we did there. That is a registered Duroc, which is that red pig. So we bred her purebred for farm show.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, Mark?
Do they like store curves?
No, not like cows. They don't rate them like 98 or 87. They look off of progeny, what comes out of it. They look at it doesn't really matter. The trends of pigs have changed over the years. We went from a more extreme muscle to a more plain muscle to a smaller made, easier fleshing pig, which means fast growing. So different boars work on different types of pigs. So say I'm back 20 years ago and all of my sows are the old lean, mean, muscular pigs. So what I can do is take a new boar that's really flat muscled that'll really work on those pigs. That's all you have to look at, and that's what kind of characteristics you need to make. And that's what determines the price of your semen, is what the trends are and how the boar's been doing for several years. If the boar starts out at, they start all their boars out at $50 a dose. If the boar's first year piglets are really fabulous, price goes up to about $125. If they're bad, they go down to $25, $35 a dose. And they might not even keep that boar if he doesn't work.